Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the podcast. I am your host, Fallon Jordan, and I'm so excited and delighted to have Sarah Trop here. And it's been a while since we had someone like in the interior design space. What she does is so different because she does trauma-informed, faith-based interior design. And one of the things that I find like super cool about what you do, Sarah, is that you won a flea market flip, and if anyone has seen that on HGTV, like you know that that's like really, really cool and really, really special. So congrats on
Yeah.
that.
Thank you
Uh,
so much, and thank you for having me on. I'm really excited to be here with you.
Me too. I would love to hear, I feel like a lot of people in this space, like we kind of knew that we wanted to do something creative or artsy. I would love to hear just the the relationship within yourself of when you were like, I'm going to be an interior designer and like I'm going to be a really good interior designer because the list of testimonials and before and afters on your website is phenomenal.
Thank you. It was a journey that I say interior design kind of God brought to me. It wasn't something I really even pursued at all. I was homeschooled most of my life, and back then you couldn't really do anything outside of like I couldn't join any sports teams or gymnastics or anything like that. Well, maybe I could have, but they didn't. Anyway, um, so we each kind of picked what we were passionate about. I was passionate about art, and I went into um, professional painting lessons for years. And so I had art and galleries, and I loved it. I love color theory. I love creating, especially landscape style paintings and abstract, which I know are really different, but I like both. And then I got married very young at 19. I was married, and for 9 years I worked in the IT industry. I enjoyed my job. I didn't dread anything going into work, but then I made two little really cute babies, and I didn't want to leave them, even though I was working part-time from home, part-time in the office. I didn't like leaving them. It was killing my soul. And I was leaving with my mom. It's not like it was anything bad, like it was they were great, but I just really wanted to be with them. My heart just ached to be around them more. So I knew I wanted to repurpose and reuse because we're the dorky family who was recycling before it was a thing. Now it's so common to talk about recycling, but my husband, he would do things like we'd go on vacation and we'd go to a state that doesn't have recycling. Actually, does Maine have recycling now? One
It
time we visited.
does, but
Okay.
Georgia was not good with it, and I lived there for a long time, and it used to
Ah,
like make me feel sick.
it's painful. So
Yeah.
we would like bring the recycling stuff home to recycle with us for vacation. So we knew we wanted to recycle. That's why I knew the name FunCycled actually even before I knew what I would do within that. And then when I took a pause to say, what am I passionate about? I said, I'm really passionate about painting, but I didn't want to just paint pictures at the time. And so we thought if we repurposed old furniture and I shared with people how to do it and shared the story of the pieces, then to me that aligned with who I am as a person in addition to a way to make money. And so we had no money at all. And so I always say to people who want to try something new, I did everything debt free right from the get-go. And that's how I started the business. I think it was a free dresser that I got either on Craigslist at the time or alongside the road. I don't even remember. And I redid it and I sold it for $100 on Craigslist at the time and took that money, bought two more, and just built it that way. Within 4 months, I made enough to take over my salary. And then over the years, I was delivering furniture, and people would say, "Oh, what do I do in this room? Like, while you're setting that dresser down, what do you think about this wall color?" And I'd say, "Oh, I'm not a designer. I'm not a designer. You should call somebody. I don't know." Um, and then we won Flea Market Flip the and took the money from that show to get a storefront. And once we did, everyone would come into the store, and so many people would say, "Hey, why don't you design our house? We love the design of your store." And I would say, "No, I'm not a designer. I'm not a designer." Um, and finally, one older lady named Anne, who I still adore and just finished the last room in her house a couple, maybe 6 months ago. She said, "I want you to be my designer." And so I finally said yes. And I always say to people, like, if you have a lot of people asking you to do something, that might be a cue to your calling. And I, I went in even on the first design consult for her, and I said, "Anne, why did you pick me? There's so many designers you could pick. I have no experience. I have no education in it." And she said, I know you'll take something old and make it more beautiful. You won't just rip things out and put everything new in a
Mm,
space. And I have an old home and I have old things in it and I care about all of that. And I thought, oh, she's onto something. That is what I'm passionate about in design. I'm passionate about reuse. I'm passionate about old homes and working around what's there and making it better versus gutting it. Um, and that's where it started. And then over the years, I've learned so much through online trainings and conferences and just reading on my own. But basically, over the last year and a half, 2 years, I've done quite a bit on trauma-informed design, biophilic design. I'm rambling, but you get the idea. That's how it's grown.
amazing. I love
Yeah.
that. And like, what was it like? Do you remember like that first time, or maybe the first time it really landed, where you're just meeting someone like, oh, what do you do? And you're like, I'm a designer, and like felt that? Because like when you kept saying I'm not a designer, I'm like, "Yeah, designer."
Yeah. I would say the first time that really hit me, I started going to networking events. I never went to any networking events in the first, I would say, at least 8 years of our business, maybe more. It was
Amazing.
all word of
I'm
mouth
jealous.
and people, yeah. But one of my clients, who's actually the deputy mayor, was the deputy mayor in our town at the time. She said to me, "You're a personable person. Why aren't you in the community? Like your
Mm,
business would thrive even more." And I was like, "Well, because I'm busy enough." But she said, "Well, I think you should be more active in some kind of networking somewhere." So she recommended this one local group, and I went to it, and I had to do those quick elevator pitches.
hmm.
And I had to say I was a designer, and I was like, wow, does this feel weird? I'm not used to announcing myself as that, even though that's what I do primarily now. Yeah, it was one of those out of body experiences to kind of almost felt like I was manifesting something that already happened, but I didn't speak
Exactly.
it, you know? Yeah.
Amazing. I love that. And I love also backing up to what you said. And I think we can all agree the collective is kind of a hot mess right now. And we are having like major spiritual warfare.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of people reflecting on like, how do I want to spend my time? And like, what if I actually did decide to like homeschool my kids? Like, what would that look like? So for you to come in and us just meeting for the first time and sharing your story of like being raised in a homeschool environment and like being like, I'm going to do whatever it's possible to stay home with my kids. Like, I just want to honor that and celebrate that because
Thank you.
you did it before it was cool. Like, because you were listening to your heart, you were listening to your soul. And I feel like that's probably the biggest gift of why you can create so many different things and transmute so many different things because it sounds like you're really good at listening to your heart. So if you have any like tips for us, feel free to share.
Actually, it's funny. It's a God thing that you're even asking this because that has been my past year, and nobody has asked me about that in any other podcasts I've been on or anything. But I'd be happy to share some of the things. I grew up in a pretty fundamental Baptist church. My dad was a Baptist pastor. Lovely people. He is the kindest, gentlest man I know. Like he makes it easy to believe God is real because of his gentle love towards me.
Wow.
I'll get emotional.
Let's cry
But
together.
let's cry together. Yeah. But there's a lot of fundamentalism that sometimes is God the Father, God the Son, God the Holy Bible versus being attuned to the Holy Spirit.
Yeah.
Um, and so over the last year, especially, maybe even year and a half now, I've been trying to make a purposeful effort to take pause and just listen. And by that I mean like I'm not asking for something from God. I'm not having an agenda. I'm not reading a Bible study. Yes, I do those things too, but I'm taking time aside to say, I'm going to sit in stillness. I love to do it in creation. I love to do it on an overlook where there's a sunset. I love to do it where the air feels clear. And you know that difference when you walk in the woods and there's like just that the air feels different.
Yeah.
And it can't always happen there. Sometimes it's literally in my bed because no one's woken up yet and I can just be still and say, I'm listening. And I have to say, it's been transformative in my walk with God. I feel like a pretty spirit-filled person my whole life. Like God often speaks to me and promptings like, "Hey, I want you to reach out to this person." I had it happen this week where a friend came to my heart, and it was like God saying, something's wrong. Like you need to reach out." And I reached out, and she said, "No, nothing's wrong. I'm good." I'm like, huh, that's weird. Like I'm thinking God doesn't usually put people on my mind if there's not something wrong. So I called her the next day and she's like, my daughter's headed to the hospital where she started breaking down. My other son might be in heart failure. She's crying. And I was like, was this yesterday? And she's like, yeah. And I said, why didn't you say? She's like, I just couldn't process it yet. I was like, oh,
Mm,
at least like I know that God put her there for a reason. Like, so I often feel his presence. But when it comes to like a creative calling, for instance, God has spoken to me so much in that silence. Like he has put things in my heart that I don't have time for. And everyone would say, oh, how are you doing that? But when it's a calling and you feel it from him, you make it happen because he's making it happen, you know?
exactly. He doesn't believe in
Um,
time.
Right, right. So for instance, I went back this in the past few months to painting my original artwork, which I haven't done since I was a young adult. And I'm debuting it at a fall festival we have next weekend. And it's been such, I don't know why. I don't know why he's calling me to it, but here it is, and it's going to be out there. And then also I felt very called to write a book, and I finished it. It's in editing, and that should be coming out soon, but it's going to be called Created. It's called Created to Create. And it's this
Mhm.
idea of like how the spaces that we're in can foster all different things. I talk about the neuroscience and I link to all the studies that can affect or how our spaces affect our emotions. But then I also talk about scripture and what the Bible says about peace, about solitude, about hospitality, and why it's important in the home whatever that home looks like. And it's not about like having the best or the coolest thing or the newest thing, but taking that time to inner reflect and say, like, what brings peace? What brings stillness? What brings me closer to God when I'm in it? And so this year has been that so many times over and over again, this yearning to hear from him in a deeper way than I ever have before.
Amazing. And look at everything you've created.
Yeah.
There's
Well,
people
I always
like,
say
I've
it's
been
him.
working
Like,
on a, yeah. And I think that's the missing piece, especially like in the entrepreneur space and like, business conferences and masterminds and all this stuff. It's like, yes, we have to take aligned action, but if we're getting the guidance to do the thing, like we start it and we know that all the right resources are going to come. And I love how you kept talking about being still because be still and know that I'm God is like the first thing that really landed for me.
mm,
And it was just like a gentle, loving nudge from one of my friends who actually, that's just funny, a therapist and interior designer.
oh,
And it always just kind of stuck with me. And it's really, really beautiful. And I love the title of your book because I
thanks.
like don't know how many times I can say the word create. Like that's the word that also just pops out for you. And of course, it's named twice in your title of your new book.
Yeah, exactly. And I thought, if we have a creator that created something so beautiful all around us, clearly beauty matters to him, right?
Yeah,
Stewardship of what our earth and the way the beauty, there's something to it. There's something that affects us because of it. Otherwise, he could make everything just one bland color or no flowers or, so it's just beautiful to me how he's worked in the last year in my heart in that way.
incredible. So I'm curious,
Yeah.
as a sister in the neuroscience world, with the trauma informed, I think some people still, even just saying the word trauma, they're like, what? You know what I mean? Like, how does that have to do
Yeah.
with my home? What are some of the, because when I looked at your stuff, like I immediately just I felt your presence, which was like absolutely beautiful and very
So,
honoring. Like I feel like you
thank you.
honor everything that you do and like that analogy, right? Like everything you touch turns to gold, like and it's gold for that person. When you are working with someone who you can tell either by the before you go into the space or even like on the phone consult that they have kind of some serious stuff, like maybe childhood stuff that they need to deal with, what are some of the tips that you use? Because I feel like you just do it by showing up. But if you have anything else that you wanted to share about that.
Yeah, so first of all, thanks for those kind words because that's really soul filling to start my day. I appreciate that. Um, I don't know if that's two different questions. Let me see if I answer it correctly or if it's something else. Because do you mean by that? if I go into a design job and I can tell there's something deeper, how do I get them to see that? Or do you mean how do I take a trauma environment that I know is a trauma environment and help it in an emotional state, like emotionally?
Yeah, kind of both because I feel like some people know that they have trauma and then some people don't, but we all have something, right?
Yeah, yeah. Okay. So I'll start with the spaces I already know, and then we'll go into the other one.
Perfect.
Um, when I already know it is because, for instance, like in the last year, I've done sex trafficking homes. So
Mm,
there's a non-for-profit that helps women out of trafficking, but they need a safe space once they're out for a 3-year phase. And so we help them design the houses in the safe space. So when I do that, it's little things, but and it ties a lot into what's called biophilic design, which is not typically something people are talking about, but it's where you bring nature into the design as much as possible because nature is a
cool.
calming presence generally, and it aligns a lot with trauma-informed design. So, for instance, most of their homes have a blue room. So it'll be a room where there's no technology. It's blue. Blues and greens tend to be something that calms the nervous system, brings peace. So we use the blue room and we make that room typically a room where it's gets a lot of sunlight and there's a lot of windows throughout the day, or a lot of windows where the sun hits throughout the day because we want the natural light hitting. That is another thing that helps with a trauma-informed space. Then when we're building from there throughout the finishes, we're thinking very texturally, I guess is the way I would say it. So I want a rug that's soft. I don't want a
Mm,
rug that's coarse and
yeah.
abrasive. I want a lot of throw blankets. We want to think about like it might be a weighted blanket for anxiety. It might be a soft, fluffy blanket. When I pick artwork, I want it to be soothing. I want it to have nature invoked in within the artwork. And I also sometimes I'm not a huge fan of a ton of words, like wordy artwork, but
Yeah.
sometimes it is good to have like a really unique, deep quote that they probably have never heard before. And we added a couple into the house for the most recent sex trafficking house. And so we're layering colors that are calming with textures that are calming and natural light and settings that are calming. So that's kind of how we build within the trauma-informed space. And sometimes you can't bring any of that in. So, for instance, I did a homeless shelter, an entrance to a homeless shelter as well this past year. There were no windows at all, actually. And there were no places I could bring soft textures because it has to be washable, very nothing that could be easily stolen, so you have to think outside of the box. So in that situations, I leaned heavily on colors, natural wood tones that we could bring within the accent pieces, artwork that has a lot of nature, and then the closest I could get to like a soft fabric would be like a almost like a leather. They wouldn't do full leather, but like a pleather that felt like leather.
Yeah.
So sometimes I have to work outside of what I would typically say would be my first pick in a trauma-informed space, right? But that's that's the easy answer, the easier answer to kind of sum up what it feels like to create a trauma-informed space. But when I'm dealing with a client who doesn't realize they're traumatized or working with some type of situation, which kudos to your friends who is a therapist and a designer, because I really always say I'm a evangelist and I'm a therapist disguised as a designer because I really care about people's souls most of all. But it is so often that I walk into spaces and I am often just like the middle person between two fighting partners,
Mm,
between parents and child. Like I've had parents say, "You deal with them. I can't get them to clean up that space. I don't even know what to tell." And I'm like, "Whoa, like it's just like, there is something deeper here." I try not to get too far into diagnosing a trauma or even
yeah.
helping them see that there's a trauma, but I try to point them to things that will help them. So it could be something like I went into one client's and their house was such a disaster that I knew it didn't matter what design I put into the space, they wouldn't enjoy the space, right? It's about relaxing, it's about joy. And if your house is filled with clutter, you're stressed all the time. And she was stressed all the time. And so I said, any other designer I know would have said, peace out, not taking the job. But I basically said, listen, I want to help you create a home you love. Let's start it with someone else who will help you organize. So sometimes even just the organization, and um, there's certain organizational companies locally that I'm friends with the owners, and some focus more on the process, some that focus more on the mindset and the piece behind it. So I try to align them with other professionals that I think will help them get to where they need to go from the heart and mindset perspective. And then if it's just design and we're talking about getting them there, it takes a lot of behind the scenes work to say like, well, why is that important to you? Like why is it important that we keep this piece or that your wife doesn't have this room to design how she wants or I'm gonna sneeze. Sorry. Um can you cut that out? I don't know. So we're just constantly talking. It's a lot of conversation and hopefully pointing them to see the need in a gentle way, right? Like I can't say, "Oh, you two need therapy," but I
Yeah.
could say like, "Hey, I feel like that's something maybe you two should talk out before we come back again because
Yeah.
I want you guys to align with, where you're headed in this design because the last thing you want is to try to like complicate it and be at odds all the way through the process because I'm trying to make the process part of the fun,
Right.
I'm putting that's in my name because I want it to be a fun experience for you. So that's typically how I walk them through it.
That's incredible.
Thanks.
Wow. Amazing. So the biophilic is really cool. And I was kind of thinking of like the introduction where some of the listeners might be familiar with, when you have a child with autism, like they have like their little sensory room. But I think this is the message too for everyone listening is like, but that always feels good, right? Like when there's something horrible that happens, like the emergency response team always puts a blanket around you. Like we need more sensory experiences. And like you were saying earlier, like God gave us beauty for a reason. And like he gave us all of these senses for a reason, like things wanting to smell good, things wanting to taste good, things wanting to feel good on your skin. Like all of those things really matter. So I would love to know too, when you're working with someone who might be out of touch with one of their senses, what that process is like for you. I know that wasn't like a really clear question, but I just
I
something
get what you're
along those lines. Yeah.
I get what you're saying. Yeah, no, I typically try to say what I did I use myself as an example. And I sometimes try to teach through experience share versus telling
Mm,
somebody what to do.
yeah.
And I'll say, hey, when I opened my retail space in downtown Troy, I had never opened a store. So what do I know about what I like about stores? So I went to different locations, like different areas, Hudson, Chatham, and I walked through little shops and I thought, what makes me like this shop more than another shop? What do I like? What don't I like? And I spent a good amount of time just perusing. And sometimes when design clients call me, they'll say, just make this look nice. And I'll have to say, like, especially if they're not in tune with what they actually like, I'll say, hey, kid, why don't you take some time? Like, notice when you go to a friend's house over the next month, what do you like about their house? Or what don't
Mm,
you? Or you go into a hotel. What do you like about that hotel? I can tell you what I like. I like things that smell really good. I like Christian music playing, but that's me. You might like jazz, you might like something else. I like lighter, brighter spaces with dark accents because it feels like a contrast that draws me for some reason. I
yeah.
like in bedrooms, I like moody spaces. I like really dark bedrooms. Like people would say it's a cave, but I love it. To me, I want to soak into my bed and just feel like I'm in a little cave and it's quiet and it's beautiful. And I love that. But other people will say, absolutely not. That's depressing. I want light and bright. I want bright yellow, like who knows? So let's take a month or a couple weeks if we have it. Usually there's time in the design process before we actually start, where I say, pay attention to what your surroundings, how they make you feel. And with even right now, everything happening in the world, I think we all feel a little a little tension, a little chaos. No matter what side you land on or what you believe, there's just this, it feels like rubbing against each other.
Mm,
And even if we don't want to address it, it's still showing up in our social media feeds, and you still feel that tension. You just feel the tension in the air right now, politically and spiritually. And one of the things I was just talking to a friend about yesterday is like in those moments, it's so important to come home and make sure your home is where you feel that
right.
calm, calm, and maybe start there. Maybe outside of the world, maybe in your hands on your phone. Maybe we talking like I had to have a long talk with my kids about some things that came up politically, and they felt tension because of it and how to address it. And so, yeah, that's all happening. But how can we make home feel peaceful and joyful? And that might be the words that we say. That might be the worship music that we're playing. So our mind is thinking about those things
Right.
instead of something else all the time. But either way, making time to really think about what affects us is something that a practice that I don't find many people do. And I'm not judging them. It's just one of those, it's like anything else. It's like if we don't focus on our health, we just naturally will become unhealthy. If we
Right.
don't think about our environment, it will naturally tend to go to chaos, and create anxiety. And you know what was interesting to me about maybe 8 months ago? Within a week span, I had three different really good friends of mine say, I'm struggling so badly this week. And I'm like, I'm so sorry to hear that. And they said, can we just come to your house and sit? Like, we just need the peace that your house brings.
Oh my God.
And some of the days I wasn't even home. And I said, yeah, go, enjoy, sit. And people would come in, and a couple literally were in tears by the time, just sitting in my, I'm like, there's nothing that I did, there's nothing that I said, but they just said it feels like magical, like just this peace. And I thought there's something to the environment that we create and the peace that it brings that I feel like if we spent a little bit of time focusing on it for ourselves, it would bring such a impact to our emotions and our in our brains and our spirituality.
And what a testament to the work that you did. I'm sure you saw like some stuff happening.
Oh,
Like
so
Kat
cute.
decided to join us.
So
Um,
cute.
and I think again, like I thought, and maybe you thought this too, like I thought during COVID it'd be like the wake-up call a lot of people needed to like get their house is like the safest, most loving, peaceful place that they know. And
Hmm.
now with what happened with Charlie Kirk, I'm like, this is another wake-up call for you to figure out like where do you feel like most at peace? Like where do you have control over, right? Like the simplest
Right.
personal development
Yeah.
exercise, like these are the things I can control, these are the things that I can't control. And it's just amazing what you do through the house, and then knowing that like again, like everything that you touch turns to gold and is allowing that love to go throughout the entire home and also the property too, and especially where you live. And it's kind of crazy because I can't remember the exact town, but I went to this really special Airbnb, and it was 20 minutes from Ithaca, like all mountains hilly. And I swear I went to a store in Troy, and I wouldn't
Really?
be surprised if it was yours.
It could have been because I was the only one that did repurposed like furniture for 8 years, I think it was in Troy. So
Wow. That was so
yeah,
cool. That was a very magical place.
thank you.
Like upstate New York is very magical. And
Especially in the fall. I mean, is
Mhm.
there anything more beautiful than New York in the fall? I swoon over it every year. And I was born in October, and I swear God made me born in October, so it felt like his little birthday gift to me. But
Yep.
I love it so much. I just could eat it up. And I didn't appreciate it because I didn't really travel until the last, I would say like 7, 8 years. And the more I've gone globally to Ireland or England or Iceland or whatever. Those places are beautiful. But I come home and I'm like, man, have we got it good. This is so pretty here. I just love it.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think, growing up in New England, like, yes, we were grateful, but when you go to other places and you don't see that, like, for me, it's like my feet crunching on the leaves. I'm just like, oh my God, have you ever heard anything more beautiful than that sound? Like, it's cool because I worked in restaurants a lot when I was younger, and like people would come from all over. Like, we're here to just look at the leaves. And I was like, I guess I actually really understand that. Like that it started like sinking in, and especially being away from New England for so long, it's definitely the thing I was looking forward to the most. And we're creeping up on October pretty quickly.
Are you going to be here through the fall season?
I have no idea.
Okay. I hope you are. I hope you are. I hope you
Me
get to
too.
enjoy
And
it.
I'm already seeing the changes and it's amazing. And I love that process of like some of the trees start now, but like it's like literally 4, 5, 6 week process. And it's just amazing. Cause I mean,
And
I
I,
love orange and red. They're two colors I typically like don't really have in my home. Which is also very interesting. I did want to ask you, I've been like super obsessed with cobalt blue lately. With your
oh,
color
okay.
theory,
Yeah.
what does my
I
soul want?
mean, it brings like life and vibrant, but in a calming way too, because it's still in the blue and green family, right? But I would definitely say it's bold. And you know what I've seen it combined with a lot lately is like a aqua-y teal color, like that Florida aqua mixed with a
Yep.
cobalt, which that's bold, but I've seen it pulled off really well lately. So I say get it, girl.
I
And
love
do
it.
you like the blue plates and things like that? Have you seen the vintage plates that are cobalt and
So
white?
that would definitely be like a healing thing for me because I was like handed down all of that from my family and I just like didn't want their energy near my stuff. But I love what you said about the aqua teal with the cobalt blue because the aqua teal is like by far my favorite color. Like I'm
Oh,
obsessed. So that makes
perfect.
total sense.
I love that.
I love
Yeah,
that
we
too.
just did a whole, I think it was a blog post about it, about combining those two colors. So,
Mm,
yeah.
so good on the brain.
Yeah, it
And I
is.
tell people, I'm like, if you make one little change and you actually like have a desk and like an office in your house, like put it so that you can look at the trees in the sky. Like it's literally going to make you more productive and you literally just change the position of your desk.
I know. I know sunlight, it's crazy how much of a difference it makes. I had this little art room in my house and my husband's like, "Oh, maybe move this over here to look better." I'm like, "Yeah, I want to be in the light." Like so I paint right by a window. So the sun's hitting me as I paint every single time and I
Oh,
love it. I love when I can open the window and just hear the birds and my roosters crowing. Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
that is incredible. So tell us about your art show because I know I have a few people near you
Yeah,
that
so
are
we're
listening.
actually we do a fall festival every year. And we do open tours. Well, you have to get tickets, but it's free. But we do tours of our home, which was built in 1802. It's called the Repurposed Idea House. And because we tried to repurpose as much as we could as we redid it. And so we'll go over the history of the home, the history of the people who lived here originally. It's really got a fascinating story. Well, every single room has a scannable QR code to most products in the space. So you can say like, "Oh, I love your couch. Where could I get that?" Or "I love your light fixture. How do I buy it for myself?" So I try to make it a fun interactive experience for people. And then this year we've added on one of my closest friends. She owns a gorgeous home decor store locally that mixes vintage with home decor and she's doing a huge 10 by 20 tent on my front yard. We have 9 other vendors. We have authors coming throughout the day. We have an interactive art exhibit where people can actually paint on it. Then
Ooh,
we'll use it as our backdrop for next year. And I'm announcing the gallery that we'll have, I'm hoping, if I finish them in time. I have 8 done, but 10 paintings of my original artwork that people could buy if they want to.
so cool. And that is
Yeah.
where and when?
It's in Wine and Skill. So if you go on our Facebook page, FunCycled, FunCycled, that under events, you'll see it with all our address and all the details of the vendors. Oh, and we have a food truck. We own a food truck too. Um, and it's September 27th from 10 to 5. So next Saturday.
Perfect.
Mhm.
Perfect. I will put all the info below, of course, for
Thank you.
everybody.
And if we're not too far, you should come say hi.
I know. And like I said, like I'm in like gypsy mode. I just kind of follow wherever God or my clients or both tell me to go. So
Yeah, yeah. Well, if you're near here, come say hi.
I would love that so much. So could you leave us with one more nugget or piece of advice just about like life? You seem to be doing
Oh.
life very well.
I don't know. Oh, I mean, I would say my other big passion is encouraging people, especially right now we're in the world of t information, and it's going to be hitting us more and more, more and more and more. We're just going to be pounded with information, which is great, right? Like we can do things we've never done before. But with that, I think there's going to be more and more of a longing for people to have community
Mm,
and deep experiences together that build that community. So I would encourage whoever's listening to build your community and make time for that. I know if you're an entrepreneur, it can be a lonely road, right? Like we get busy. It's
mm,
hard, but I try to make it a practice to make time for my tribe every single week or every other week, like a rhythm of like one of my closest friends I'm meeting up with today, even though neither one of us have time. So we're both business owners, but we make it a priority to carve out enough time to go deep, keep each other accountable, but also encouraged and be fully known and seen. So I would say that would be my other passion right now is to encourage, if you're not in a church or in a community where you're encouraged to find that. And it can look so different, but taking time to hear what your heart needs and then pursue that from a support perspective and be that to other people. I think that's really important.
I love that. Beautifully said.
Thank you. Thank you
Well,
for having me. It's been a blast, though.
oh
You're
my
so
gosh.
sweet.
Well, you're amazing. And I'm so grateful for the work that you're doing. And it's definitely getting my mind thinking about a lot of the things that I definitely want for myself. So thank you for everything that you shared for all of us, but definitely me, I definitely felt it.
Oh, good. I'm so glad. I'm so glad.
Well, we are so grateful that you came and thank you everyone for listening. I love you so much. I have a couple things going on. I'll put the links in my bio. I'm doing a 40% everything in my shop because of my birthday and all the craziness of life right now.
Oh.
So check the links below, see if there's something that you need I can fulfill, and I will see you next time. Bye for now.